Yeah, we've all been there, on both sides. And it really makes you realize that the world, which includes Pokemon, isn't fair. You just have to look into one of the showdown chat rooms and everyone, but then everyone, will be eager to tell you how bad their luck is. But is it really that bad? Well, I kinda wonder if it really is that bad, or if it's just an easy excuse to why you lost. I mean, I will admit there are those moves that just feel like they're straight up lying to you. I mean, there's no way, Play Rough is 90% accurate, Norse Focus Blast 70% accurate. But is that true? And in all honesty, I just don't really believe the odds they give you. So I decided to find out for once and for all, is Hex really that bad? To start off with, what I define as Hex, slash what I'm going to research in this video, which is a bit of a grey area, since just getting critted once isn't really getting hexed, but it plays a role into it. So I'm mainly just going to test if that type of stuff happens more than it should. So now we know what's being tested, we can move on to how I tested it. I started off with those moves that I mentioned earlier, the ones that feel like they're lying to you. I mean, no way. Focus Blast is 70% accurate. So I decided to start with the worst and work my way up from there. After that I'll go into the crits, the drops and the other secondary effects. To start off with Focus Blast, I tested the move 100 times as the sample size, and it went like this. I missed 38 Focus Blasts from the 100 in total, meaning that the accuracy I got was 62%, which is better than I expected if I'm honest, but that's still 10% below the odds, it should be. But now we move on to Hydro Pimp, which is another notorious move for missing, again using the 100 move sample size. I missed 18 Hydro Pumps from the 100 in total, meaning I actually got better odds than what I'm supposed to get. Admittedly only 2% more, but nevertheless. So now we move on to Will-O-Wisp. And before I show you the results, I have a little story about this move. Back in the ancient and faraway land of VGC Worlds 2013, there once was a brave challenger by the name of Cybertron, otherwise known as Aaron Zhang. The brave challenger had this plan. This plan involved the move Will-O-Wisp, which was 75% accurate at the time. Either way, he made it all the way to top 4, where he was facing his opponent, who was the last obstacle to reach finals. And he kinda lost because of the 6-ish Will-O-Wisps that he clicked, he only landed 1. He missed around 5 out of 6. And since then it was changed from 75% accuracy to what we now have, 85% accuracy. And that's actually the reason why it became 85% accurate, so now you know why that change was made. And now back to the testing, and once again I'm using 100 moves. Alright, I'm writing this as I'm doing the test, and I noticed that I only missed 6 Will-O-Wisps from the 50 I've done so far. First of all, I'm considerably more lucky than Cybertron, and secondly, I'm a bit sketchy on this, which it is kinda ridiculous, but still. In these 50 Wisps I've been trying to burn already burnt Pokemon, and I'm wondering if that might change the odds. Yeah, I know it sounds a little ridiculous, especially since, based on these 50 Will-O-Wisps, the accuracy I got is 88, which is close enough to the 85 it should be. But I decided to do the other 50 Wisps on Pokemon that aren't burnt already. Well, it turns out that what I thought was indeed kinda ridiculous, since I got even better luck this time. Instead of the missed 6 wisps, I only missed 3 will-o-wisps, which brings the accuracy to a solid 91 accuracy, which means that I've beaten the odds twice now. But fear not, fear not. It's now time to use Play Rough, and I'm very sure that's not going to be 90% accurate, but I guess we're gonna find that out right now. I missed 9. 9 from the 100 in total, which makes, even though it's by a slim margin, that I again have beaten the odds. Nevertheless, the move that I got a lower accuracy on, which is Focus Blast, got a significantly lower accuracy than the rest got a higher accuracy. So the real end result is this, plus 1%. I ended up still having an even higher chance to hit my moves on average than they claim. And I feel kinda mixed about that. On one hand, I wanted to somewhat show that a lot of people just use hacks as a bad excuse, but on the other hand, I'm also one of those people, so now I'm kinda ruining my excuse. And I also went into this expecting that the results would be drastically different. I guess this is a good thing though, since having the accuracy they claim being the real accuracy is a good thing, since it means less hacks happens and it's a little bit more reliable. But as I said, there's more to test and more that goes into hacks, so now we're moving on to the crits. Crits really are the bane of competitive players. It's one thing to lose, but it's another to lose to some lucky bastard who just critted you a couple of times on the right or wrong moment. This time I'm going to use a sample size of 240. The reason why I'm taking that specific sample size is because the odds to land a crit are 1 out of 24. Or roughly 4.2%. So I'm actually gonna take the stats from the moves I tested earlier. That means I'm still 5 moves short though, so I'll test just those 5 extra moves next to that. Now we got the result. Alright, I got done with counting all the crits, and I normally complain that I'm really unlucky, but I guess this whole video is kinda shattering that idea. The result I got was 11 crits in 240 moves that I used. That's 1 more crit than I should have gotten. Don't get me wrong, that's practically just the odds, since the increase means that I got a 10% more, which sounds like a lot, but then you realize that 11 on the 240 moves isn't that big of a deal. At the moment, this is all looking very bleak for people who use hacks as an excuse, which includes me. But I think I know why that is. This video is mainly focused on just testing it, but at the end I will also talk a little about my conclusion, why I think this looks a lot, but then I mean a lot better than it is. Either way, we are now moving on to the last part of the test, and those are mostly the secondary effects. I decided to go with a sample size of 100 again, and to use the move Scald. The reason why I went with Scald is because that shit always feels so unfair. People will get it on a critical Pokemon turn 1 on the Switch, and you will just sit there and click it for 6 turns straight, just for it to burn the wrong Pokemon, cause that guy switched out. Honestly, this video is going more wrong and wrong with the second. My plan for this video is just to test the odds and find out that they are highly unfavorable, and then I have a really nice and shocking conclusion. Instead, I keep getting the odds they are supposed to be, which is just mad boring. I got 27 burns in 100 moves, which means it's 27% chance to burn, which is about what it should be since the chance of burning is at 30%. Well, at least I didn't beat the odds this time, so that's something. So, the results look like this, and honestly I thought it would be drastically different. I don't really know how to feel about this, since on the one hand, the results are kinda boring, but on the other hand I showed that my assumption was right. And I think I might have an interesting conclusion about this all. So if you just came for the numbers you can click off now, but if you want to hear my theory, just stay a little longer. What I think is the case is that people just get critted or lucked at unfortunate timings. I mean, you just have to listen to one of the dozens of people who are eager to tell you how that one specific crit or miss on that critical turn made them lose or win the game. But then you gotta ask yourself, how many turns in a game of Pokemon are critical? I think that's probably around 80% of those turns. I think 80% of those turns are very important and can influence the whole game, and I think that only like 20-ish%, maybe less even, of the turns really doesn't matter that much. If I were to take an estimate of how many turns in a singles match are, I would say it's around 40-ish turns. But keep in mind, I barely play singles, I don't know what I'm talking about here. And if I were to do the same for a doubles game, and keep in mind, I mainly play HO and Trick Room, so my games take a little less turns. Either way, I think I would end up at around 40-ish turns for your average doubles games, which is pretty comparable to singles, since of course twice as much can happen in a turn when you play doubles. So around 80 moves are clicked in one of those games, and I think it's just bound to happen that a lot of moves miss, crit, or get their secondary effect at the wrong time. Therefore, I think that's why often people feel hexed, because they feel like a game shouldn't have a single crit or miss in them, while that's just not how Pokemon works. Don't get me wrong, Hex is much more than that. Hex is when all those three aspects combined happen often enough that you couldn't win or salvage the game and you just lost on luck only. Even though this end result is a bit disappointing and boring, I'm still happy I looked into it, since it definitely changed the way I look at the games now and how I play around it or with it. So, you watched it all the way to the end, which means one of two things. You fell asleep, or you somewhat enjoyed the video and probably like this type of content. I hope and assume it's the last option, and no, don't worry, I'm not here to ask you to subscribe, but I'm going to ask something different. I'm going to ask if you would like to leave me a comment with a suggestion for something to dig into or check up in my next video. I really liked making this video, and I would like to do some other stuff like this, but I don't really know what I should do. So if you have an idea, please let me know. And that's all I have for today, so I hope you enjoyed and have a nice day.